Hello, Chemistry 10 and Chemistry 10H students. This is Mrs. Altman. I'm going to break unit conversions into two videos. So there'll be this one, and then there's going to be a second part that is just for the Chemistry 10H students. These are just supplementary videos to help you if you're having a little trouble with this topic. So these are just the notes from class. So when we convert between units, we're going to create what is called a unit factor. So it's just a fraction that relates two units that are the same. So 12 inches over 1 foot or 1 foot over 12 inches, either way is fine. Any sort of two things that are equal to one another. And you can use any number of these as you want when you are making when you're doing these sort of problems. Before we get to the examples, I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm sure you've already seen this. This is the sheet of unit factors that I give all chemistry students for all applicable tests, quizzes, midterms, and finals. So definitely for the first test or quiz, depending on the format or the timing of the year. And you'll definitely have this for any midterms or final exams. This has stuff in here you probably don't need, but I give you the same one every time because I want for you to become used to using this, and also so that if we're all using the same thing, it's easier for us to check one another's works. It's easier for me to see where you went wrong if you made a mistake. So please use this, even if you are just doing, let's say, a homework assignment. Of course, all of these things are Googleable, but if you are used to using this sheet, it will make doing like test problems down the line a little bit easier for you. So the best way to learn how to do these is really just to do a problem. So the question says to convert 520 meters into miles. So the first thing that I am going to do before I even start the problem is I'm going to look at my sheet of unit factors and I am going to see if there is anything that relates meters to miles. So I go to length distance and I look in here and I'm seeing that I have something with kilometers and miles, but not miles and meters, but I have something between meters and kilometers. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to just copy paste the things that I know I'm going to be using. So this is sort of like pre-work. This isn't really my real work. You don't have to do this every single time, but as you're getting used to it, it might be a good way to really start it. So then let's get into the real problem. So the first thing I do is I take the question and I'm going to put it over the number 1. So 520 meters over 1. Some of you might skip that step, but for the time being, it's a good idea to include it. Now I have two fractions I know I'm going to use. So I've got 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. So what I have to do is I make a fraction where meters is on the bottom because I started with meters up top in my first fraction. So then 1 kilometer has to go up top. Next, what I do is I need to make a fraction that has kilometers on the bottom because kilometers was up top before. So whatever unit is in your first fraction is then on the bottom of the second fraction, and there's going to be this chain of whatever unit is up top is then on the bottom. There's not a specific rule for how many of these you'll need to use, which is why doing the pre-work might help for you to make a good decision. Right, so now I am set up correctly. I am going to put here exactly how I put it into my calculator. This is how I like to do it. So what I do is I take everything that is up top. So 520 times 1 times 1. I didn't put the ones in there, but I could. So if that's something that you're not, you want to make sure that you're always putting it in your calculator correct, you could do it like that. I could include the 1 in there if I want to. It's just not needed to. So then I put it in my calculator, and it's really important that you use the parentheses. Right, so when I put this in my calculator, I got 0.32318210007. For those of you in the H class, you are going to need to round your answer to the number of sig figs that is in the question. So since 520 points has 3 significant figures, I must round this to 3 significant figures. And then always make sure that you put your unit with your answer. For those of you in the 10 class, you could have either written the entire number from your calculator, or you could have rounded it really just however that you felt like doing. I don't grade the 10 class on how they round these. Right, let's take a look at another example. We're going to convert 5.001 times 10 to the fourth second to years. You probably have a lot of these unit factors memorized, but I'm still going to use them here just because we're actually going to need all of them. I specifically picked a one that was a little bit harder just to demo it for the video. All right. So I will start by taking what is in the fraction in the question and putting it over 1. I'm actually going to go ahead and take this out of scientific notation, just to make it easier to put in my calculator later. You could leave it in scientific notation, and that is also correct. So because I have seconds up top, I must have seconds on the bottom. Because minutes is up top, minutes must be on bottom. Because hours is up top, hours must be on bottom. Now that I'm looking at this, I realize I don't need this fraction here because I can just go right from days to years. And then days is up top, so days must be on bottom. So then to put it in your calculator, parentheses are important here. Because 5.001 times 10 to the fourth has 4 significant figures, I'm going to need my final answer to have 4 significant figures. So I got 1.001586 years. I had to round that 5 to a 6 because after that there was the 8. Those of you in the 10 class, you could have written the whole number. I got 0.0015858067 in my calculator. Now I've got one more example for us. We're going to convert 0.00201 pounds to grams. Before I actually go ahead to do the problem, I'm going to look for a relationship between pounds and grams. There's actually 2 different ways I could do this problem. I'm seeing that there's a relationship between grams and ounces, so I'm just going to go ahead and add that. And then there's a relationship between ounces and pounds. There's another way I could have done this too. If there's more than one correct way, then you'll just do it whichever way that you prefer. So I take the question, I put it over 1. And now I have pounds up top. So I'm going to have pounds on the bottom. So I'm going to put 16 ounces up top. Now I have ounces up top, so I need ounces on the bottom, so 28.3 grams goes up top and 1 ounce goes on bottom. So because it's actually just all ones in the denominator, I could just do this as all multiplication. And then I must round to 3 significant figures for those of you in the 10 class. those of you in the H class, and then those of you in the 10 class, you could either round it how you would like or write the whole number. I got 0.910128. All right, I hope this was useful to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Have a great night.